Hello friends. Many learners have been writing to us through emails. They contact us through phone also. And then we observe that though we train our students to be mass comm graduates or postgraduates, but sometimes the very basic things like how to write an email, how to respond to a phone call, how to make a phone call, and how to reply to a mail are somehow missing in these students. No doubt, because these things are never taught in our schools or colleges. Also, we've been receiving certain feedbacks from students that the soft skills, that is the basic communication skills, must be taught at the university or college level so that you have a better gist of things while you conduct your day-to-day activities. So today, we thought we will take up a journal section that would benefit all the students in journal and the mass communication students specifically. So let me begin with email etiquettes. Let's actually know about them and learn about them. Number 1, why are we holding this session? Why is it important for you? And number 2, how you should actually write impressive, good and emails which actually elicit responses. What are the journal flaws that students make? What are the basic mistakes that you commit? So we shall look at all of these in today's session. So here are the email etiquettes and let's start by knowing about them. In response to all the growing concerns regarding emails, business communication experts recommend some do's and don'ts for email writing, which are known as email etiquettes. Learning email etiquette helps writing persuasive and winning emails, avoiding confusions and offensiveness. Sometimes we don't even know that we are offending a person. Sometimes we want to persuade a client or a customer to take a certain action. How do we write these great, impressive, response-eliciting emails? Email has generally been used as an informal means of communication. However, nowadays, as it is becoming increasingly popular in the job application process, students need to take time to think through the content of the email and address the message that they might be sending to their prospective employers. Although employers do not always read an entire cover letter at the first time, they do expect the writer to take time to include the necessary information in an appropriate way. So, we need to have email etiquettes. Friends, this is a very genuine point. You might have seen that these days, whenever you see an advertisement for a job, now that after your post-graduation, all of you would be applying for jobs, there is always an email address given or a website of the company given. So you are expected to write your cover letter and attach your resume to be sent to your employer. Gone are the days when we would put them into a cover and send them across to the post. These days, even if you send a form through post, it requires that you fill the form into the website, take a printout and then attach a demand draft or a check and send it to the employer. So the websites, the web portals, the emails, or as we say, the virtual communication these days is very, very important for you to get even your jobs. So many students come to us and ask, how do we write a cover letter on the email? What do we write in the subject line? Do we actually keep a subject line? How do we make a resume? One mistake that students do, they make their resumes very, very colorful and make them such heavy files that either they are not delivered through the mail or even if they are, the employer has great hassle opening them because of the great formats that you guys include. You don't have to write your resumes in JPEG or GIF files. The formats are to be Word formats, something which is easily accessible and opens by all the employers. So now I think you understand that for your employability also, writing a good professional email with great manners is very, very important. So now let us come to the things that why do you need to know the email etiquettes. Let's see this. Why do you need to know about the email etiquettes? Number 1 is professionalism, then is efficiency, and then is to have protection from liability so that your email appears to be professional, so that it says that the person means business, so that it also says that the person is very, very efficient and careful about writing these professional communications and conversations, and so that you avoid being labeled as ill-mannered or not knowing a certain thing in just by the virtue of just not knowing it. You probably won't know that you don't have to write all capitals in the email and you will be labeled as impolite, so that you don't actually suffer because of things that are not known to you. Therefore, you need to know about these email etiquettes. Now, What are the etiquette rules? What are the basic manners? Are there certain rules while writing an email? We were all taught how to write letters and applications in our school time. We were told that personal letters are different from professional letters. When you wrote to the principal, it was very different from when you wrote to a dear friend. When you wrote condolence letter, it was very different from when you wrote invitation letters. But the irony of the fact is, we have moved from letters to emails. But the syllabi in the school have not. We are not told how to write an email asking for a leave, how to write an email when you resign from a job, how to write an email when you ask for a job, how to write an email when your boss asks you to send something across. Writing to colleagues and friends is very different from writing to bosses. It is also very different from writing to just general customer care people. You might be a consumer in a thing and you want to write to a customer care service. You want to send a feedback. So all these types of emails are very, very different. Now, what are the email rules? Let us look at them. Number 1, you must always have an appropriate subject. Use an appropriate subject line. Whenever you might open your email box, you might have noticed there is a to column, there is a CC, BCC, subject line, and then a big page where you write your actual content. Now, let us come to everything. From the to column, to is where you are sending your email. To the person whom you are addressing your mail is the to thing. Do you know the difference between CC and BCC? CC is carbon copy and BCC is blind carbon copy. Sometimes you are writing to a boss and you need to write to his secretary as well. So you put the boss name in the to column and then the secretary's name in the CC column. That is a carbon copy to the secretary. Now what is it? The secretary would be able to see that who you have written it to originally, and the original receiver would also be able to see whom you have sent a carbon copy to. When you have a BCC column, that is for blind carbon copies. Sometimes you want to send the same email to 10 employers, but you do not want to give them an impression that I am applying to so many other jobs. Then you include the names in the BCC column. That means that no receiver would be able to see another receiver's name. Now next most important thing is the subject line. Here it is, the slide shows what you have to include in your subject line. The subject line should never be empty. It is the first thing that the recipient sees even before opening the email. Have you seen that whenever in your inbox, you do not open your emails but the subject reflects the name of the person who has sent you the mail and the subject what it is regarding. So the person even before he opens the email is able to see the subject. Leaving it blank creates a very poor impression. If the email is of high importance, you may use the priority tags like urgent, important, quick reply. However, it is important to use these tags wisely, only for the real important messages. Please don't write urgent for any kind of email. Like they say, there is a phrase called Tom, Dick and Harry. So if you are sending any Tom, Dick and Harry email, please don't include that urgent tag. You have to be very, very careful regarding how you have to write it. So your subject line should very, very clearly convey the motive of your writing the mail. Even if it is maybe a complaint, so say complaint. If it's a letter for a job, say application for the job. Say leave application. Whatever your subject, just reflect in your subject line. The second thing is addressing the recipients properly. It is very important to address the recipient properly using correct spelling. Please, nobody wants to see their name written wrongly or spelled wrongly. The first thing that they say is, Dear Mr. Richa. If Richa spells her name as R-I-C-H-A, you better know it. If you write it as R-E-E-C-H-A because you just didn't know how she spells it, you are in for a trouble. This is the first impression you are creating. You don't want to mess up with that impression, do you? So please verify how the person pronounces their names, how they spell their names. For the email, pronouncing is not important, but of course the spelling is. So it is very important to address the recipient properly using the correct spellings. While writing to someone for the very first time, it is still appropriate to address them by their names instead of using sir or madam. Now why is this? To create a personal impression. If you are writing to someone and you say sir, the person would probably assume that you've written 20 mails with sir address and they're just being sent across. However, if you write, Dear Mr. Das or Respected Miss Shelja, right? So this creates an impression that this is a personalized mail. You are writing to that person personally. So the person is more liable to respond to your messages. This creates a good impression, this has a personal connect, and of course, you are more sure to receive a response in this case. The third rule is selecting an appropriate tone. Now, please don't wonder that I'm not talking to the person. So, what does my tone mean? Of course, it is not about the pitch of your voice or the hurry in which you are speaking or the quickness of your pace. It is about the tone of the written material. It is very important to know who will receive the email. The tone of the email and the words may vary depending upon the recipients. For example, emails to a prospective employer or advisor would be more professional than emails to friends, co-workers or colleagues. The tone should either be formal and official or it can be personal and informal. So now you better know who your recipient is. If it is your cousin, you might have a very, very informal tone in which you might use slangs, you might use certain shortcuts like you or before, be and for, like the young generation writes. That is completely permissible because this person is your cousin, your friend, your sibling, or maybe even your parents. These are all your personal relationships. But mind it, if you are writing a professional mail, that is to an employer or maybe to somebody who has already employed you in or somebody for a prospective business contact, you have to have a very, very formal mail. No slangs, no informal things, no don'ts. Instead of don't, you have to use do not. No can'ts and don'ts and won'ts. Will not, do not, cannot. The formal English that you learned in your school has to be kept in your email. It is not only about English. Even if you are writing emails in Hindi or any other regional language or dialect, please have a very, very formal tone. It is just like you will be standing in front of that person. Obviously, your mannerism and your behavior would be formal. Please have the same kind of tone in your email also. Do not make it very personal or informal kind of a tone. Another very, very important thing when you're writing email is about formatting your email. Fine, you've given a great subject line, you have addressed the person very appropriately with the correct address of dear, respected, Mr., Miss, whatever, and you've written your email very, very formally, in a proper manner, in an official tone, in a professional liking kind of a thing. But you commit an error if you do not format your email. What does this mean? Most likely, we all are familiar with general rules of formatting emails. Still, it does not hurt to double check some points. You might say, I know, I format my mails very nicely, but please, before you hit that send button, you please look at it once again. It just would be a cursory glance, but it will save you certain big trouble. Still, if you check or double check your points, it will do you some good. Be sure to wrap up your text after 70 characters so that it does not look disjointed. You can select the correct setting for character length from the preference options of your email provider. Now, if you've seen any of the email providers, Gmail, Rediff Mail, Yahoo, Hotmail, the popular ones, and even the other ones like India Times or other things, there are always certain options which are there at the top of your main box. The 2 column CC, BCC, subject line, and there are certain options which are regarding formatting, wrapping up of your text, the size of the text that you want to include, the color of the text. Some even give you enhanced options like italics or bold. I mean, Gmail gives you those options, so does Yahoo. Some others give you other options. So it is always good to use those formatting options. Sometimes you might just be writing very big or letters. So it would always be good if you actually have a normal text size for your letters. One other thing, the text size is okay, but the font that you use for your text. For the formal or the official mails, please use Arial or Times New Roman. Even Vardhana can be good. But other fonts, like this heading in your slides that you're looking at, the email etiquettes, this heading, the way it is written, this is not a formal tone. This heading has been included in a different font just to let you know that the official text or the font should be written in only New Times New Roman or Arial and not in the informal kind of fonts. So please use those options of formatting which are given in your email provider. So they are always having enhanced options, and include those things. Wrapping of your text means that your text looks together. It does not get disjointed. It does not go haywire as in left and right and it's all a big thing. And the colors. If it's a personal mail, use any amount of colors. But for official mails, stick to black or brown. black is the best official color to stick to. If you want to create a very good impression on your employer, you will have enough time once you start working with the person. Please keep your emails color free. These are official things. You do not go for an interview dressed in a very, very colorful manner. So why should your resume or cover letter go in that way? Would you actually go looking like a rainbow girl or a rainbow boy when you're dressing up for an interview? No. You actually shun your high heels or your bellies for official kind of shoes or chappals. So should your email. Let your email look very prim, properly dressed with an official color which is black. And official font which is Arial or Times. Now the length of the email. You formatted your mail very nicely. But then you've written some 500 words for an official mail. Oh my God, who would read it? Emails need to be short and precise. People receive many emails every day, so it is very important to keep it short but to the point. The brevity in content does not mean that you have to sacrifice certain content. A, B, C, remember? Accuracy, brevity and clarity. Do not sacrifice this. Your email has to be brief, but accurate and very, very clear. So clarity and accuracy have to be there. You have to very clearly mentioning what you are mailing for, but do it in lesser words. Because your employer has given out an advertisement in the newspaper and there would be some hundreds of resumes pouring in, so many cover letters coming in. Please, that person should not just open your mail and be put back and put off by it and just shut it down without reading it. You want the person to read. So sound professional in lesser words. Now, very important thing about attachments. We all attach things. We attach pictures to our friends. We attach resumes to our employers. Sometimes we also attach certain PowerPoint presentations or Excel sheets or something. Now about the attachments. Sending attachment is okay. It is also required. But as long as the recipient is aware of it and is able to receive it. You must make sure that the file is not too large and you title the file meaningfully so that it is very easy to find it after the recipient detaches and saves it. Also, it is recommended to mention in your email what type of the file, whether it is PDF file, text file or Excel file. If the recipient needs to have a specific version of the software to be able to read this file properly, mention that in your email. If you are sending more than one file, be sure that it is included in a list of files that you are sending. So you must also write a list. Now, why is it so important to be very careful about the version of the files that you send? For instance, you might be using the latest 2007 version of Microsoft Office, but maybe the employer only has a 2003 version. So you must always mention that a Word format included in the rich text format, so that if the person has to download certain thing, a software for opening this, they might be able to do this. Of course, you do not want that you've written a resume with great effort and just does not open at the employer's computer, desktop or laptop, whatever it is. So therefore, you should be very, very careful for using. For the attachments, you must use certain generic and journal softwares, and the length of your attachment, that is the heaviness of your attachment, should be such that it opens very, very easily. Nobody wants to be kept waiting for opening your assignment for 2 hours. So send an assignment to a professor and just opening, the person would probably shut it out, give you 0 and move out. So to be able to be professional, please take care that your attachment is not very large in size. Second, your attachment does not use certain softwares which are not very generally used. Third, if you have more than one attachment, please include a list of what all is there. And something very important, the fourth point, please label your attachment as what it is. For you, it might be a resume, but the employer will receive 100 attachments called resumes. So please label it. If I have to send a resume, I might say Padmini's resume, so that when the person opens it, shuts it down, in the process the person detaches it and saves it, it reads Padmini's resume wherever it is. So whenever I call them up or I have to follow up, they would be able to locate it very, very easily. Don't keep generic names. Give the name to your attachment which is known as the specific name for your thing. Now another important thing is about avoiding flaming. What is flaming now? Let us see this definition. Flaming is a virtual term for using inflammatory words on emails to vent out certain emotions. You might be very annoyed with a person. Somebody has given you a very wrong email. For example, a colleague has written you a mail which you are annoyed at. I'm very, very annoyed, and you use words in the email like, I don't care how you've written this to me, and you are someone who does not work, and I will complain about you. Now, if you were originally standing in front of the person, you might have spoken these words. Of course, you should not be speaking, but even if you spoke them, they are not there in written record. You speak them, they go away. But if you're placing such words, if you're flaming in an email, please remember, it goes down as written record. It is there with the person always. Anytime the person opens it, the person will see it. If they want to forward it to someone, they will be able to forward it. So much so that emails are considered as logical witnesses for court cases even. So this is something going down in written record. So while flaming, you should be very, very careful. Let's look at it now. Flaming is a virtual term for using inflammatory words in emails to vent out emotions. Often it is hard to understand the exact tone of the sender, and the reader could read it in different tones than it was anticipated. Once you write something to someone, you cannot take it back because it is written and recorded. Therefore, it is better to avoid flaming in order to avoid confusions and tensions. You should not reply to a flaming email right away, as chances are that you will respond in a similar manner. If somebody has written you a mail which sounds very rude or flaming, please take your time, sit over it and respond after half an hour or 1 hour. If you were to immediately reply to it, there are many chances that you will just use the same tone. It might be used against you, or you might regret writing it. So please take time and do not do it in emails. After you write an email, you can ask yourself how you would feel if you have received this email. Also think whether you would say these words to the person verbally. Sometimes we are able to write things which we are not able to say. So please double check your email thinking, would I have spoken the same words that I have written? As long as you are comfortable answering these questions regarding your message, the email should be okay to send. But if the answer to any of these questions is no, please think again. Hold that mail, think over it, rewrite it and then send it. Now, when not to send emails, that is very important. When should you consider not sending your emails? It is recommended not to send emails with complaints, opinions, about co-workers or disciplinary actions. If you were complaining about someone, you would be very, very unprofessional. You were saying, okay, this person came in late, let me complain to the office. That is none of your jobs. Why should be writing such mails? Be careful that this person might come across your mail later and this might land you in a problem. So avoid certain mails. Now about avoiding abbreviations and all caps. I have seen many students who write to me, they usually write in all capitals. They probably assume that this conveys urgency. But this conveys rudeness. When you scream in real life, how would you convey that you're screaming in an email? You would use all capitals. All caps is equal to screaming. So if you want to scream or you want to be assumed as screaming, okay, go ahead, use all capitals. But do not use all capitals for polite conversations. You cannot do that. This is a very, very wrong assumption. In case nobody told you, you know it now. All caps means somebody is being rude, impolite, shouting, fighting. So please avoid all caps. Please also avoid abbreviations for official and formal mails. You don't have to abbreviate your text always. I mean, it won't hurt you to write government in full, just to write gov dot or plz, please. Please, write please. You are just typing the letters. Write complete letters. Some are okay for personal mails. Avoid abbreviations in all caps. Abbreviating words should be avoided by all means. It is fine to write please or you instead of you if the email is very, very personal. But in business emails, this should better be avoided. Also, using all caps should be avoided. It creates a rough and a rude tone. So please avoid these things. Now, editing the messages before sending them. Missing punctuation and incorrect grammar could create negative impressions to the recipient. It is better to read the entire email prior to sending the message. Accidental mailing could be avoided by addressing. So if you were accidentally mailing something, if you address the person or include the subject line, so of course you could avoid that. And whenever you're committing certain grammatical or spelling mistakes, this is a very, very wrong impression. Please read it. Please have a cursory glance for just 10 seconds in your email and avoid such things. Many of your email service providers offer you spell checks and grammar checks like your Word formats do. So you might use them. That always helps. Now a bit about professional emails. What are the cares that you should be taking while writing professional mails? So a bit about professional emails. Professional emails are very different from casual emails. or instant messages. These are not SMS. Remember, it is easier to be ruled out than ruled in for a position. Hence, here are some rules to consider when you are writing your email in which you are applying for a job. Rule number 1. Always introduce yourself the same way that you would have done in the cover letter. Dear Mr. or Miss, I am writing in regard to your position for XYZ position in the financial services. Write a basic introduction in the very first line so that your email is not a confusing email. The person exactly knows what you are doing. Rule number 2. Treat your email as if you were writing a professional cover or thank you letter on paper. But be brief. As you would have written in paper, you can use the same style of writing for your email. Be brief, concise, clear and accurate. The same thing goes in the email but with corrected spellings. Rule number 3. In the subject line, make obvious why you are writing. Your subject line should include application for XYZ position. 4. Make sure you change the contact name and content according to the person or the company to whom you are sending the message. You might be applying to 10 companies for the job, but please change the name of the person. It does not just hurt to say, okay, dear Miss Manisha or dear Mr. Jan or dear Miss Jha. So just the name. Just change it and also just change your context, or that is the subject line. The same email might go. You don't have to compose 110 emails to be applying for 110 jobs, but just personalize them by changing the way you address the person and changing your context or the subject line. If you are responding to an email, include the original message in the reply so that the receiver can put your email into the correct context. Also respond within 2 business days. If you're responding, do not keep the person waiting. The person should not be confused. Oh, what is the reply I have got in return to? It is okay to include your original message so that the person sees underneath that this was the original message and this is the reply I have got in response to that. Rule number 5. Always spell words correctly. Do not just use spell check. It won't catch words that are spelled correctly but are missed within the context of the sentence. For example, I commit a very common typo error. When I have to write FROM, I write FORM. Now my spell check option does not check it because form is also a word in the English language, as is from. But the context that it was being used in is different. So that won't be caught in the spell check. I will have to read it to see that whether from or from what is being used. So you must always read your mails again to check for the spellings or the grammatical errors. Rule number 6. Never use all capitals. Employers may think that you are screaming, and it is also very difficult to read all caps. You try and write something in all caps, it is difficult to read. So please use caps with the grammatical rules, as in to address the names or for I or for the beginning of a sentence, and do not use all caps. 1, it shows that you are screaming, you are rude. 2, it is very, very difficult to read. Think about the message that your email addresser sends. Keep your email simple and avoid unprofessional sounding names like stud muffin or party girl. Please, your email can be as simple as Padmini Jan. It does not have to say smart Padmini or something because it's a professional mail. Or some people have nicknames like Gutku, Bittu, Sonu, Jhonu, Monu. No, these are your professional emails. Don't have your names like Junjun 2020. Runjun or Junjun is your nickname. You don't have to have your email address with that name. This creates an impression. So have a official sounding professional email address for yourself. Read your message carefully before you click the send button. The tone of the email can be misinterpreted by the person you are sending it to. Another important rule. Have someone else proofread your message before you send it. It may be easier to find errors if you print or review your email. If you are not able to see the errors on the screen, you might take a printout, review it, read it again, and then maybe make the corrections, or have a friend proofread your email for you. Generally, you should scan your resume for viruses before you attach it to your email. Name your document your name resume. Employers receive hundreds of resumes via emails. If you follow up by asking recruiters if they have received your email, they will not be able to locate through 300 attachments called resumes. Right? So always it should be virus free and it should have the exact name of the person who is writing the mail. Rule number 10. If you are attaching your resume, Ask the receiver if they would prefer that you send it in different formats, Word Perfect, rich text format, or the PDF format. So the preferred format should always be adhered to. Do not assume that if your employer is informal, that even you get the license to be informal. They can write to you in an informal manner because they have nothing to lose. But please, you do not do that. Now, let us come to our last segment, that is do's and don'ts of the email etiquettes. Now, probably you are clear with the thing that you should have what kinds of etiquettes for emails. Now, let's quickly review and recap by seeing the basic do's and don'ts. Be concise and to the point. No lengthy mails. No overboard writing greatly to just show that you are a great creative person. Be concise and to the point. Answer all the questions and preempt further questions. Whatever was being asked, please write them on. Just answer them. Use proper spellings, grammars and punctuation marks. This is creating an impression of your writing skills as well as about you. Make it personal by addressing the person with their first or the last name personally. Use templates for frequently used responses, something that you do always. For example, you send in thank you notes. You've sent your marriage invitation to some 500 people and you have to send them thank you notes for their congratulations. Or it is your birthday and all your Facebook friends have responded. You want to give them a thank you note. So you might have a commonly used template which you can be sending to everyone so that you don't have to compose that mail again and again. Answer swiftly. Please answer quickly. If somebody sent you a mail, do not keep them waiting. 1 or 2 days maximum and you should have answered the mail. We are again looking at the do's and don'ts. Do not attach unnecessary files because it loads your email unnecessarily, makes it heavy and tough for the person to open the mail. Use proper structure and layout. That means format your mail very, very correctly. Do not overuse the high priority options, that is the urgent tag. Do not write in capitals. All capitals should be avoided. Add disclaimers to your emails whenever they are needed. Read the email before you send it to check for the errors which might have escaped your eye first time. Do not overuse the reply to all option. Take care with abbreviations and emoticons. Be careful while formatting. Take care with the rich text HTML messages. Do not forward chain letters. This is a very bad thing to be doing professionally or officially. Do not ask them to recall a message. You might want them to recall a message, then include that message and a copy-paste format underneath. Do not copy a message or attachment without the permission of someone. Do not reply to spam mails. Keep your language gender neutral. You do not know that your prospective employer might be a male or a female, so just keep it gender neutral. Do not use emails to discuss confidential information. Use a meaningful subject line. Use active voice instead of passive voice. It is always better to say, I am applying for this post than to say, I have been applying for this post, reading about it. So use the active voice. Avoid using urgent and important unless it is actually very urgent and important. Avoid using long sentences. In the end, I would give you certain pieces of advice. Transform emails into structured activity. Align your email with your business objectives and use emails more thoughtfully and thoroughly. So friends, I hope this has helped you. Now that you will be writing to your teachers or your professional employers, your prospective bosses and all, you would be writing professional emails. I wish you all the best with this. And if you wish to mail me regarding this topic, wish to give me a feedback or anything, any other topics that you wish to be discussed in this teleconferencing session, you can email me at padminijan@ignou.ac.in, which is padmini@ignou.ac.in, and I assume you will all be writing the emails with the etiquettes that we have discussed today. All the best. Thank you so much.